Welcome to Midlife Unplugged, the fuck it years. I'm your host, Lara Portelli. This is the space where we strip away the polite BS, rip the gloves off and get real about what it means to thrive in our second act. Each week I'm joined by a guest who's walking their own bodacious midlife path. We're talking menopause, divorce, reinvention and everything in between. Buckle up, because this isn't your mother's midlife crisis. This is Midlife Unplugged.
Hello, everybody. Welcome back to Midlife Unplugged, the fuck it years. I'm your host, Lara Portelli, and today's guest is the amazing Sabrina Militello, all the way from Austin, Texas. Hello and welcome, Sabrina. Welcome
Lara.
to Midlife.
Hi, so good to be here. Thank you for having me.
Absolutely, and loving that English accent, loving it. And English in America.
Indeed. A transplant.
Yes. How long have you been in America?
Gosh, it's been like 15 years or so. So yeah, fair old time.
Yeah, so that's for our guests at home listening, to all our wonderful guests at home, that, you know, transformity and transplants, as Sabrina's saying, are really possible. You can pack up, you can, as we say here in Australia, piss off to somewhere else and replant yourself, right?
And we say that in England too.
Replant,
do something else.
Piss off and do something else, love. And actually, my third book that it's not back up on the wall there yet, is called, Your Midlife Edit, Pruning Your Garden and What No Longer Serves You. So that's really good. But today's not about me, it's about you, Sabrina. So without further ado, let's jump in and talk about you for a while. Let us know a bit about yourself, and especially I want to know about your fuck it moment when you decided enough was enough the way you were living, and you knew you needed to make some change.
Yeah, so I am now in a season of my life as a coach and an executive in my professional career, and all from the outside looking in, everything is looking good and dandy, which gives me pause a little bit, because the last time everything looked good and dandy, it was a straight up shit show, and that was my fuck it moment was about to hit. So I've been having some kind of like a wobble a little bit in this season, because everything feels so good, but I remember when everything felt good the last time and it wasn't. So where I find myself now at 43, nearly 44 years old, is very much in my claiming myself era, like discovering who I really am and valuing her above all else. And I talked to a few of my girlfriends about that, and you know, it can sometimes sound as if you're being selfish or you're being dismissive of the other people in your life, but I truly believe that the longest relationship you'll ever have is the one that you have with yourself. You're with yourself 100% of the time for 100% of your days. So if the relationship that you have with you isn't solid, then no wonder life feels like a shit show. No wonder things feel as if they're going wrong, or you can't, figure it out, or it's just not going the way that you hoped. And, you know, when I was, this was 8 years ago or so, when I had this big turnaround in my ability to focus on myself, is I was in my great marriage. What I saw was a great marriage. My husband and I had been together for 17 years at that point. We've been married for 7 years at that point. I was at the height of my career. I co-owned a fitness studio. I was doing all the things. I'd lost over 100 pounds. I was like, everything was going great. I was a, pillar in my community, all the things. My health was in the toilet, even though I was skinny or slim. I was not healthy at all, because I was over-exercising. Eating disorder I thought I kicked in my teens had come back, and just trying to manage all the things and be all the things for all the people, And then my husband one day turned to me and said that he didn't love me anymore, just out of the blue. It was out of the blue for me. And I sat there and I had this very visceral reaction to that. Obviously, I was distraught, but I also realized how much of my self-worth was tied to how he felt about me. And not just how he felt about me, how so many other people in my life felt about me. I was only a good person because they thought highly of me. And that didn't feel right. In that moment when that was stripped, you know, that sense of safety and certainty, something I'd never questioned how my husband felt about me, for that to be gone, I realized that if I didn't have anything more than how other people perceived me as the anchor of my worth and how I saw myself, I was fucked, basically.
Yeah.
Right. So I had this come to Jesus moment with myself where I was like, Sabrina, you need to fix up. Like, something needs to change. Like, you cannot continue. You can't carry on like this. And so hence came years and years and years of self-work and healing and diving into all the things that made me feel as if I wasn't worth anything. I wasn't worthy of anything. My husband and I, we found our way back to each other. So we're good. And actually our relationship is in a better place than it ever has been before. And I think that is down to me being in that I don't even like to call it a selfish era. I think it's a very necessary phase of life that women need to go through, where we acknowledge that we're important and that we matter. Yes, everybody else in our lives matter. I'm not saying that they don't, but so do we.
Absolutely. I concur with that so much. And for the woman that's at home listening to this episode or watching later, or, it's somehow drummed into us, I think, socially and conditionally, that we get the pram and the dolly when we're little, and that we need to look after and nurture, and that's built into us anyway, into who we are as women. But somewhere along the line, we it gets a bit misconstrued, and we just totally give. Like, I concur with so much that you're saying there, Sabrina, because I just gave and gave and gave and gave as well. And then there's just no feeling of self. There's just nothing. It gets to the point where there's just nothing left to give anymore. And I too owned a women's fitness facility.
Amazing. We're like the same person.
Yeah. And I was at my unhealthiest at the time. I was stressed out. I found myself in the fetal position one day from anxiety of trying to run a business that wasn't going so well. But if I look back and I'm honest about myself, my marriage wasn't doing so well. The business was crumbling and I wasn't in a great place. So how can we be expected to give when we're not giving to ourselves? And I know it's cliche, and I know people are, I'm filling my cup, I'm putting my oxygen mask on first. But what does that really mean? What does that really mean for women and for people? And I'm interested to know, as I was just saying, for people that, might be having their wine right now, or their cuppa, or in the morning, or wherever, when they listen to this episode, and you're saying that your husband said to you that he didn't love you anymore. How did that, like, for some people, we'll say people, and more so women, maybe because that's what we're talking about here today. When he told you he didn't love you, did it bounce off and you go, I don't care? Or how did that make you feel when in that moment you weren't feeling good about yourself? Did it spiral you further? Were you analytical? Did you brush it off? You said that you and your husband worked on things. But in that moment, what went in your mind and your heart?
In that moment, I was destroyed. It completely shattered me. We've been together since we were 17 years old. We have a connection that is unlike anything that I ever thought I would be worthy of having. I have a lot of like foundational self-worth stuff that I think it's a constant work in progress, right? But I like what we do have, but then how it presented to me, it completely destroyed me to think that I had lost this man. And there was a moment as I was kind of sitting with it, because he told me when we went on a date night and we were in the car on the way home, and he just was like, yeah, while he was driving, and while I was okay. So we got home, and I took myself off into a corner, and I just remember thinking, like, what I think I had so many emotions, and I expressed one, which was something has to give with how I feel about myself. But the other one that I really remember is this thought of, see, I knew it. It was kind of like that version of myself that was so damaged and fractured on the inside was waiting for that.
Yeah.
It was almost like I was waiting for the other shoe to drop. I was waiting for the fantasy or the fairy tale to end, because I didn't believe that I was worth what I had. So I found a way to fuck it up. That's literally the first. It was being shattered and destroyed. Second, it was that. And then it was like, okay, well, if this is what your life is going to be, you're always going to push people away. You're always going to end up with the dregs. You're never going to have your happy ending because you don't deserve it, because that was my story. Then you're going to have to figure out how to survive by yourself. And if you're going to be with yourself, then you need to fix that. So it kind of, I went through so many stages and phases, and even now it's like something bad happens, and I call the bitch that lives inside my head, her name is Patrice, and I don't know why her name is Patrice. So if your name is Patrice, don't come at me. It's not anything to do with the name. That's just what I decided to call her. So when she starts with her ugliness and her like bitchiness and whatever, she starts with the like, see, I knew it. You, of course that would happen to you. Of course that was never going to happen for you. Of course, see, like she gets all like that. And I have to sit there and be like, yo, girlfriend, we're not playing this game today. And I think that's why I named her, so that I can have that kind of conversation. I'll be like, we're not doing that. We're not doing that, because I don't have time for that. The version of me that exists today doesn't have time for that. Like you can do your thing, but I choose not to listen. And it's taken a long time to get there. It's something that I coach my clients on a lot, is turning down the volume on that internal narrative. But I think the reason why I share it, and I share it in that way, is because so many of us carry around those stories, and we live in those stories, and we almost wait for the truth of those stories to happen in real life for us to be able to say, see, I told you. And it's almost like we're addicted to that sad story.
Yeah, it's that verging on that, self-sabotage. See, told you, waiting for that to happen, right?
Mm-hmm,
mm-hmm. And I love that. Like for our listeners out there, who will listen to this, do you have a Patrice? I'd like to know, and Sabrina would like to know, who's your Patrice? Do you have a name for your ugly itch in your, So how about, like, fuck off, Patrice, not today, Patrice.
Yeah, literally. That's what I do. Like something will happen and I need to be in great energy. And I'm like, yo, girlfriend, not today.
Not today, Patrice. But in all seriousness, if you have that, do you have a name? Like, I'm quite interested to know. I think I need to find a name. Yeah, that's great. Yeah. And again, it's that we talked about, worthiness before, and then we talk about too, that we knew that was going to happen. I knew that was going to. Where is it? Is it? I did a lot of work, and I'm an ambassador for Tara and Brumfit for the body image movement. I noticed you mentioned body image as well. And I went into owning a women's fitness center because I really wanted to empower women. And not long into my journey, Sabrina, I noticed that it was actually the industry that was part of the issue. That was a really big wake-up call for me, that the beauty industry, the health and fitness industry, that are multi-trillion-dollar industries, that are actually the industries that are knocking us around. The billboards, the and I felt quite ill when when I realized what was going on. And what I also noticed when I owned my women's fitness center was a lot of the women would come in, they'd have their weigh in or the check in if that's what, if we could get them to do it. And I understand why they didn't want to do it. And then they'd do a workout and then they'd go across the road and have a coffee and a cake with a friend from the gym. And what was so empowering for me was they didn't give a rat's ass about their weigh in or their measurements or they were lonely. There were so many women that were lonely. The loneliness was an epidemic from what I was seeing, my hundreds and hundreds of members coming through. And I remember one lady in particular that came through and she told me that she'd woken up one morning with the red ring around her lips from the wine bottle. And she woke up, she was still in her work uniform. She'd slept on the lounge and the red rings around her mouth from drinking out of the bottle and the wine. And I thought, where are we going if this is, this epidemic of low self-esteem, low, body image that is not healthy and this loneliness epidemic. What are your thoughts on that, Sabrina?
I think you hit the nail on the head. There's so much there about women being isolated and feeling lonely about certain things because we have to wear all these hats and we have to be all of these things for all the people in our lives. Like men don't struggle with things like that because they go out with their buddies, they blow off steam, they do whatever. There's not any kind of expectation necessarily for them to hold any other roles in their lives apart from buddy, boss, husband, father, maybe. Whereas us women, we're carrying all of these other roles and places that we need to be energetically and version of ourselves that we need to carry. And a lot of the time, what I see in my coaching practice with the women that I work with, I have the privilege to work with, is that becomes this like mechanism that we use to isolate ourselves away from others because we tend to write a story about it that it's just happening to me, and not in a self-absorbed or egotistical way, but rather we catastrophize and we personalize our experience to the point where we think it's just happened. I'm the only one that's struggling with this. And social media hasn't helped with that because everything that we see is just a highlight reel of everybody's life, right? So we see homegirl over there crushing it. She's got 16 children and 15 jobs and she's #nailing it. Her nails are always done. Her hair's always done. Her eyelashes are perfect. And she's got great mental health. And we're like, well, I can barely get out of bed in the morning. Exactly. Like something is wrong with me, right? So because of that, we pull away from those moments of connection that we can have with other women. We pull away from spaces that enable us to have that connection with other women because we carry shame that we're a hot mess express, right? We carry shame that we don't have it figured out. And then we think there's something wrong with us, that nobody else is struggling in the same way that we do. And one of the most prideful things I've been able to do in my career is create spaces and communities for women to realize that we all are trying to figure it out. We're all in our messy middle, especially in midlife. This is the messy middle of our existence, right? And we're all just trying to figure it out. And I think once you're in community like that, once you're in safe spaces that encourage and enable you to have conversations like that, it's not that the things aren't still hard. Yes, they're hard, but we start to recognize that we women, we're built to do hard things, and we were made for this challenge, and we can get through it because we know that we're not the only ones.
Absolutely. And you were talking just then about community. I can remember my grandmother talking over the fence for a long time to her neighbour or the lady of the same culture that would come around and they'd peel the vegetables together at the kitchen table. And there was that bond and that kind of village connection. It's just not there anymore. A lot of people, like in Australia, wouldn't even know who their neighbours are. Go to work in the dark, come home in the dark. And I think we're just all so busy trying to pay one house off, get another house, get another car, get another TV, get another, get something. And I'm not judging anyone for that. It's just, when's enough enough? And what are we losing in the meantime? Where's our connection to the community, as you were saying? And I know with, people I mentor too.
You made such a great point about the, community sitting around at the dinner table and eating vegetables and doing those things together. Like, it makes me think of, our ancestors or our parents never talked in depth about the kinds of things that we're happy to talk about nowadays. Like, my mother would never have talked about mental health. She'd never talk about menopause. She'd never talk about, having a fucked up relationship. She'd never talk about any of that stuff. And we are so willing and open as a generation to talk, to have real deep conversation, and yet we're so starved for the ability and the spaces with which to do that. And I think there's something that we have to do, and maybe it's an element of vulnerability, of putting yourself on the line and just saying, hey, who is willing to meet me at this, virtual table or whatever we create, and create those spaces for ourselves. If it's not built, build it yourself, because I think our mental, emotional, spiritual, physical health depends on that.
Absolutely. Absolutely. So, Sabrina, as we wrap up today, what's one message that you really want to get out to our listeners? What's one real pertinent message that Sabrina would like to send to all the, I love how you reference messy middle, because that's what it is.
Yeah.
Messy middle.
I think the one that most applies to this conversation that just jumped out into my head is, your past doesn't get to dictate your future unless you decide that it does. Right? Like, all the mess that we've been through, all the things that we've walked through, all the bullshit, all the struggle, all the things, there's no way that we went through that for no reason. I don't believe that. There's no way we went through it for no reason. Something there was necessary for you to put you into a point in your future that is everything that you hope it will be. But that will only happen if you allow those to be lessons, if you allow those to be learnings, if you allow it to be data collection for yourself, rather than allowing it to be a limit or a box that you put yourself in. Yes, the things that happen may have been terrible, but they only get to dictate where your life goes from here on out if you let them. And I think that for women, especially us in this era and this season of our lives, we've got a lot of stuff that we've walked through. And I've been using this analogy a lot recently with my clients. It's like, we're in this space where, imagine life, this season of life we're in, as us being in a traffic jam, right? You're sitting in traffic and you're looking and you see all the red lights ahead of you, and you're just like, for God's sake, when am I going to get to the intersection so I can get off? And you're just like doing this, those people that are stress traffic sitters, they have to do something. You're doing that, and all you can see is red lights, red lights, red lights, red lights. And that's what we do to ourselves, as opposed to looking in your rear view mirror and seeing all of the white lights that are behind you, and thanking God that you're not still back there. Right? And I think that we need to do that more for ourselves. Appreciate, yes, this may be messy, this may be ugly, I may be struggling, but look how far I've come, and give yourself the grace and the honor of that acknowledgement.
I love that. That's so important. I totally agree and believe in that too, that we can't have just gone through all this shit for nothing. And every day is a school day, and every day we're above the ground is a school day. We continue to learn. We don't leave school when we leave school physically. Every day we're on this earth, we learn. And as you're saying, we can't have just gone through it all for nothing. And look back at the white light. I like that. I really do like that. Every time I see someone doing that now, I'm going to think of you. The stress driver.
Yes.
Oh, it's been so good having a chat to you, Sabrina. All right, everybody. let's all give Sabrina a big thank you. It's been amazing talking to you, and such insightful ideas and thoughts there. And thank you so much for joining us this afternoon, Sabrina,
Absolutely.
and your
Thank
evening.
you for having me. Yes.
And Sabrina's details will be up when her episode is aired, and you can find everything about her there. So thank you so much, Sabrina. It's been a joy having you today.
That's a wrap on this episode of Midlife Unplugged, the fuck it years. If today's conversation lit something up in you, hit subscribe, share it with your midlife crew, and keep the conversation going. I'm Lara Portelli. See you next week for another raw, real, and unapologetic chat.